Hey everyone, Dave here. With me as always is Ryan. This is episode 117 of the weekly show, all of the week's hottest topics with a twist. This week, Alex Jones. Things continue to get worse as numbers, they continue to discover higher numbers apparently. So we got a little bit of Alex Jones talk to start everything off. We're going to talk about Kanye West and George Floyd, talk about some general election stuff, some polls, things like that, as we're getting close. We're a month away, less than a month away. Should be interesting. Things could get interesting, Ryan. That's all I'm going to say for now. The Raiders are making an exciting new hiring that just expands on the wokeness of the NFL.
Is it female?
Well, we'll get into it, Ryan. I don't
A
wanna...
tranny coach would be fucking hilarious.
Well, it could be a tranny coach, Ryan. I'm not going to spoil it. Stay tuned to find out if it's a tranny coach going to the Raiders. Andrew Tate. We've talked about Andrew Tate, and I even mentioned that I didn't know that much about him. I heard of him from you, but didn't really know that much. Signed up for his newsletter, and we're going to go over...
Tremendous.
It's interesting, man. But I'll tell you what, there's two ways you can take him. You can either, this guy's a fucking asshole, he's misogynist, blah, 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 or you can be inspired by it. The story is actually a good story. And we got something, Ryan said our podcast has felt extra heavy lately. So he wanted us to lighten the mood. So we're going to lighten the mood in an ironic way. You'll see what I mean. That'll round us out. We'll get into some quick Ryan points and a December tainment at the end, and we'll have a good, fun episode 117. To be part of all of our future episodes and to see all of our past episodes, except for the ones that are banned, be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble channels. Comment on this video below with us. We'll comment back. All the things. Blah, blah, blah. Plug.
Here's my supplements. Colloidal silver's the greatest thing you're gonna need it to fight off the fucking Russian invasion.
He's gonna need some more supplements because
his book went up double in price after he got sued.
It's about to go up even more. I do appreciate that segue, Ryan. And the reason that is a segue is because Ryan sent me this. Alex Jones could end up paying up to $2.75 trillion in damages, according to one calculation. Basically, if in the state of Connecticut, I believe it was, if everything maxed out to the highest levels, all the tallies could end up costing that much. Obviously, we talked about last week on the billion-dollar lawsuit that he's already up to. He doesn't have $1 billion. So 2.75 trillion. Like we even joked about it last week. Make it whatever you want because he doesn't have the number you're asking for now. Oh, and it turns out that's the strategy they're going for. Ryan, I don't know how much there is to say about this, to be honest with you. Other than
David, quick question here.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of I didn't do any. This is just a hot take right quick. What do you think the largest lawsuit in the history of the country is?
I can tell you if this ends up being 2.75 trillion, it's probably this one.
So something that just popped in quick to my head was like, let's just name a corporation that had some kind of fallout.
Because like Pfizer, maybe?
Pfizer had a big one. I didn't go there because I'm sure
Johnson & Johnson had some big ones.
It's probably too high. Oh, yeah, they paid out something $1 billion. I looked up the BP oil spill. Mm-hmm. Which happened about 2010, 2008, somewhere in there. And it's a big controversy because all they could have done was make a big plug and go in the ground and it would have stopped them. Later, it came out that there was some fuckery. So, that's weird. Yeah. BP, this is from NOAA.gov. The Deepwater Horizon climate case, also prosecuted under the Clean Water Act, resulted in the largest criminal... Look at this. I looked up the... I'm a fucking genius. Resulted in the largest criminal penalty with a single entity in U.S. history. BP pled guilty in 2012 to 14 counts and was fined a record $4.5 billion direct benefits. Half directly benefits the Gulf.
I'm sorry, it was $4 billion?
$4 billion. So what's $4 billion in
today's money?
Yeah, 2012.
Oh, that's interesting because now you got to count for inflation too. So that'd be like a $8 billion lawsuit. It's good. Our money's surely halved.
5.1 billion.
5.1 billion
with today's inflation.
Okay, so only 5 times that of Alex Jones saying
the people that make most of my oil murdered penguins, and we had to employ Johnson & Johnson, the very company that also has paid out millions in lawsuits and billions. David, thank you. With the little ducks on the label so I can help protect from the BP oil spill that this corporation only spent $4 billion on. Alex Jones is like...
You don't understand, Ryan.
He didn't spill oil in the fucking water.
No, but he made...
No, he didn't.
People
he didn't.
We're already sad.
No, he didn't. Alex Jones didn't do anything that the mainstream media didn't do. Anything that corporate media didn't do. He reported on stuff, and he gave his opinion, and his opinion just happened to be conspiracies. Who would have fucking thought? But if CNN has something that's just wrong, it's quoted as mislabeled or redaction or... Well, I'm not saying Alex is a saint.
We'll get to some wrong news in a second here and some wrong things. But I think
$5 billion for poisoning the fucking drinking water, and this guy's gonna. What are we doing,
Ryan? I have to tell you, and we do get some exclusive information a lot, but I found some exclusive video, and it's actually a video of them requesting Alex Jones' next lawsuit after the $2.75 trillion one. I think everyone watched this.
1 billion, gajillion, fifillion, million. Yeah.
Alex Jones is in for a world of hurt.
I can't wait till he gets sharks with laser beams.
That sounds like a big number. Before we get
into preparation H.
Before we get into this next thing, I think everyone, Ye is in more hot water. I don't like calling him Ye. I'm going to call him Kanye. I'll dead name him. I don't give a shit.
His name is Ye, D.
His name is David. Kanye. I don't care. I don't care what he changes his name to. He's Kanye. You know why he's Kanye? Because, God damn it, I listened to College Dropout and Late Registration and all the albums that he's ever had. So anyone who's ever listened to all of those albums all the way through, they get to call him Kanye, okay? If anyone here has listened to College Dropout and Late Registration, his first 2 albums, his studio albums, you get to call him Kanye. I think that's a fair rule.
Dave, you're actually proving a point I heard this week about artists and how people actually don't love the artist. They just love the art.
Yeah, that's correct. Although I do like Kanye. I think Kanye's
you like him so much that you don't call him by the name he wants to be called by.
Correct. But if you change your name, I'm calling you Ryan. So it's all fair. Kanye's
I told my mom about the dreadlocks. She was not a fan.
No?
No.
Well, she hates Trump, so.
I got fucking verbally assaulted for wanting dreadlocks yesterday or today.
I feel like you just get verbally assaulted when you go there. If you had a Trump hat on, you get hit. If you have dreadlocks, you're going to get hit.
She's a sweet woman. I just can't cross, apparently, 2 very strict lines of a fucking box.
The reason Yeezus is in trouble. I agree with Kanye West. This is what Peter Schiff had to tweet about it. George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose. That's consistent with the original autopsy, the physical evidence, witness testimony, body cam footage that the jury ignored. Even if I'm wrong, I have a right to my opinion. Which the Alex Jones case has proved is not true. The thing that's interesting about Kanye saying what he said is that I have said this a long time ago before the trial even happened. When that toxicology report first came out, I went, holy shit, this dude had a shitload of drugs in his system, which he says on camera, I swallowed a lot of drugs. And certainly, we talk about drug overdoses in this country all the time. We talk about what a problem fentanyl is, but when it came to this case, it was interestingly ignored and thrown out. But the thing that was interesting that we found here, this is a memo that has gone out. I'm going to screen share it real quick here. And you see that there, Ryan?
Negative.
You cannot see it.
I seen it flicker, but nothing.
Flickered, but it didn't come on. Interesting. Let's go to...
trying to censor this information.
Apparently they are. Still nothing?
Correct. Nothing.
Fascinating. You know what? We're gonna do this somehow. I don't know why that's not coming up.
Is it all the same stuff you would do before?
That's interesting, Ryan. I'm not stating anything as a fact, Ryan.
I will, David. They are fucking with us. Like they always have.
Everything else always works, but this doesn't work for some reason.
Those extra 100 subs we got this week were all federal agencies.
I can't believe this isn't coming up.
It flickers. Like
it flickers and then it goes away. Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to do, Ryan. I'm just going to read it. I'm going to read it, and it sucks that I can't pull it up because everyone's going to think I'm lying, but I'm not. So what this is a memo that had went out between, it says, notes from conversation with Dr. Andrew Baker, Chief Hennepin County Medical Examiner. On May 31st, 2020 at 7:30 p.m., Assistant Hennepin County Attorney Patrick Lofton and I met with Dr. Andrew Baker on Microsoft Teams. All three of us were in different locations. Dr. Baker said he had recently visited. The final toxicology results from Mr. Floyd's samples, which were analyzed by NMS Labs. AB shared his screen and showed us the results. He said that's where it says hospital blood. Those samples are from Mr. Floyd's hospital admission and were not acquired by autopsy. AB said that these samples are better for determining actual blood toxicity than samples taken at autopsy. Samples taken at autopsy may have undergone post-mortem distribution. AB walked us down the list of substances for which NMS Labs tested. Those values he highlighted were 4-ANPP, a precursor and metabolite of fentanyl present in Mr. Floyd's blood, methamphetamine, 19 ng/ml, which he described as very near the low end and a stimulant hard on the heart, and fentanyl, 11. He said that's pretty high. That level of fentanyl can cause pulmonary edema. Mr. Floyd's lungs were 2 to 3 times their normal weight at autopsy. Wonder why he couldn't breathe. That is a fatal level of fentanyl under normal circumstances. And also norfentanyl, which is a metabolite of fentanyl. Mr. Floyd's urine was tested for the 4 and are redundant given blood analysis. AB said the only thing that matters is what's in his blood. But the thing at the end, which is the most interesting, is what he says and what he concludes is, AB said that if Mr. Floyd had been found dead in his home or anywhere else, and there were no other contributing factors, he would conclude that it was an overdose death. So had there not have been, was there not a video of somebody kneeing on his neck, they would have said, hey, he died from fentanyl overdose. It was an overdose death. Or they might have ruled it a COVID death because he had COVID as well at the time.
Or I'm sure if the police were to shoot him, he'd rule it as a gun death.
Well, then it would have been a police brutality, of course.
White on black crime, obviously.
So it's very interesting how, and he even says under normal circumstances. Well, what do you do here? What do you do with this information? I know what I do if I'm Chauvin's lawyer. Again, we're not to revisit old stuff. Not big Derek Chauvin fans here. I don't think he handled the situation 100% the correct way. But he used a safe and trained and effective method of retaining George Floyd, who was clearly out of his mind, probably because of the drugs. And they tried to work with him, and he was resisting, and they weren't beating him. They didn't shoot him. They didn't stab him. They didn't do anything. They didn't tase him to death or anything crazy. But unfortunately, he ate a lot of drugs. His heart got worked up, and he died. And I don't know if I'm Chauvin and his lawyer. I'm sure they've had appeals in anyway. But I'm trying to get this thing thrown out somehow through Supreme Court of the state or something. I'm trying to get this case thrown out because clearly, and we said it back then, but there's not more evidence now. It's the same evidence that they went over in the trial, but there's some even more, medical experts going over the evidence saying the same thing. He died from a fentanyl overdose. If there were no other contributing factors, they would have said so purely.
Yeah, but David, we know how this goes. This is just like the real casualty is obviously the George Floyd family. David, I don't know if you know where all this Kanye stuff came from this week. Do you know where this came from as far as like the source of all this of controversy?
I don't know specifically. I know he was quoting Candace Owens' documentary on Daily Wire about George Floyd.
He was also on a podcast this week, which is no longer available on the internet. I caught another podcast that was deleted this week. I've gone on this show before on our program and told you guys about the last time he was on this program. It was called Noriega Drink Champs, which is off of Revolt, which is a YouTube channel which is owned by Diddy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kanye was on there for like a 5-hour interview. I seen like an hour and a half of it because it's crazy. And he says a whole variety of stuff. It sounds like Kanye is running for president. Talked about how people are trying to kill him. They're going to kill it. Like, it was just, if we didn't see like Epstein Island, some of these other things, like some of these very high profile moments, and like if you look at totality, he talks about Planned Parenthood and genocide and the big A. And the George Floyd stuff and the Kanye stuff is all this fallout is directly from what he said on that podcast. And he talked about how George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose, and then that got cycled in the media. But the real casualty is like the George Floyd family. You know what I mean? Like, because he was so, look, they don't care, right? Like BLM didn't care. They didn't actually care. How much did they actually donate to this guy? I know there was all that money of all these celebrities and all these but like at the grassroots tax of it is like, how much did they really help this family? You know, and like the thing that's really a shame is they always talk about how the families.
Kanye did. Kanye helped the family.
Well, that's incredible.
I think he helped send one of the girls to school.
Well, he's just a selfish rich guy.
Oh,
but like, it's
the point.
You know, they always talk about how it's the victims of the family, those hereafter, and whether or not it was the overdose or stuff, we'll never know. The fact of it is, though, is it is obvious that politicians, corporate interests, media, everybody, celebrities, sports figures, they all rallied behind this, and this became like a literally splitting talking point in our whole country, and has helped stoke the wars of racism and civil war and all these other political dissidents that we see now. It was so magnified, and it's no shocker that anybody that pays attention or follows our content here Mondays at 7 Eastern. I appreciate all you guys as always, but to people that pay attention to this stuff even semi-weekly or something, and you see the writing on the wall, you see the propaganda, you would be like, well, how is this is like you said, David, all these medical doctors are even coming out with years of experience and proving it, but they don't care. They're not going to care because it's not about being right or wrong anymore. It's about making you kneel to what they say. And until most people realize that, we're going to keep playing this Twitter battle, this Twitter game, and it's not getting anywhere. What's the point of Twitter anymore if they can censor, delete, and tell people? Like, they can literally throttle all information so that your posts are never seen, even if you have 100 billion followers. They could substantially throttle it so that nobody sees it.
Yeah.
For what? What are we talking about? But then what is the whole social media thing brag and boast about? We're here to connect people. Mark Zuckerberg has a cult symbol about connection. Yeah, just thinking about how I caught another podcast that was deleted from existence, but has literally swayed the whole, it's swaying like economies of companies. They're being sued for things said on the internet. Now I get it. There's ad revenue and all these. I've heard a bunch of different breakdowns about this. Mm-hmm. These companies have contracts signed. I get it. But may your chains rest upon you lightly. What good's a corporate contract if I don't have a fucking freedom of speech in public or on the internet? Your corporate contracts mean nothing. Because you're telling me that my freedom of speech means nothing, that we can just cancel people, that we can wipe them from the face of all digital existence, and you can't get rid of pedophilia on the internet. You can't get rid of child corny stuff. But you can delete Kanye West can lose his Twitter, but I don't know who is paying Jeffrey Epstein's apartments. Come on. And then, you know what's crazy, David? Is just bringing it up. They censor us for conspiracy. But those are legitimate questions. That's actually legitimate stuff here.
Yeah, it is. Or as social media call it, disinformation. Ryan, I don't know if you know this. I'm guessing you know this. I know this. The general midterms are coming up. And we're all expecting a red wave, of course, because polling data shows that's going to be the case. And, of course, because we have free, safe elections, as we've always said on this program. I don't know.
Dave, those polls are just a metric so they know how much they got to steal it by to make it look like they lost by just a big, slim variant margin.
Maybe in some dystopian novel that you would read, but in real life where we have safe and free elections, that's obviously not the case.
Dave, for the record, there's like several novels and they all say the same thing, and some of them have been deemed correctly, actually.
I've tried to tell people this for a long time, and it's this. Abortion is not a losing argument for Republicans. I know it seems like it is, but it's not. And the reason it's not is because pro-choice, they always pull out the poll. Oh, well, actually, if you poll people, a majority of Americans are pro-choice. Well, yes.
If you look at a very specific number, I'd imagine, David, like if it's for the R or the I, for
example. Well, no, even in general.
Okay.
But if also you polled a bunch of Americans and said, hey, how do you feel about killing babies whenever you want? Right up until the day of birth, or maybe even after, they'd say, no, you're insane. Of course not. So it's not that Democrats are on a losing side of an issue. It's that they took their side too fucking far, and they're losing people. And that brings on Yahoo News. And Yahoo is, of course, the key it's the last name in news. Dems are suddenly playing defense on abortion. This article is, of course, written by the Yahoo News staff.
All of them? They all worked on it?
Every fucking one of them. The whole staff was involved on this one, Ryan.
Sounds like a computer, David.
And I just want to go over a couple of the article.
I told you guys, fax machines are running the Fortune 500 companies.
This was the whole staff, Ryan.
The whole staff of computers.
The anger over the Supreme... I don't know who to read this as because it's a whole staff. The anger over the Supreme Court's ruling and the ensuing abortion bans in a number of states is real and persistent. But John Ward writes that in races all over the country, abortion is an issue on which Democrats suddenly might be in a tough spot. Suddenly? It's not sudden. It's not sudden. The media's been lying to people. It's not sudden. It's always been a losing issue. Just like the gun thing, it's always been a losing issue politically. They try to spin it and try to make it less of a losing issue, but it's a losing issue. It goes on. Other Democrats took the same approach when asked if they approved on any limits on abortion. Warnock was asked the question and simply said, I trust women more than I trust politicians. Oh, that's interesting. Name any other scenario where a Democrat's going to tell you they trust the people over the government. Pick one other thing. In Ohio, Senate candidate Rep. Tim Ryan, who a decade ago was on the board of Democrats for Life, an anti-abortion group, said that government has no place in this matter. That's the whole ruling. They were taking the government out, right? The federal government is being taken out by the Supreme Court ruling. The states' governments come in and they can have a say on it. But the federal government has no say on it at all. That was the whole point. The whole point was the federal government was way above their powers per the 9th and 10th Amendments, as we know.
Those are just Trump judges, David.
Well, some of them.
No, it's a Trump court, David. He put him there so he could get help when he was up to evil, good, that they would just pass.
And I guess it was a good thing he won, Ryan. Republicans are gaining ground in the weeks of the 2022 midterm campaign, according to a new...
Gaining ground. Inflation's the highest it's been in 40 years, and magically they're just coming out of right field here.
Yeah, no. When they say gaining ground, you have to look at... What they're looking at in the poll is just a total generalization nationally. Who would you vote for, Democrat or Republican? It doesn't break shit down at all. And typically in these types of polls, if the Democrats are up like 5-6 points, Republicans usually still win significant numbers of seats.
Yeah,
which is really weird to say, but that's because of big cities and who they poll and things like that.
Yeah, I wonder if this poll has the over/under on Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, because some of these polls actually give you the numbers that it was like for every 1,000 they sampled of Republicans, it was 900.
Yeah, if you go to the actual poll, they'll always give you that information.
This is where like Rasmussen polling is very good with this. Not that I trust anything anymore, but they seem to be the standard and have been the most correct, they say, with polling over the last 50 years. So.
And their renewed focus on crime seems to be helping them overtake Democrats in the race for control of Congress. They're renewed. Apparently, they let it slide for a while. I don't remember that. It's not that the voters are suddenly saying that crime is the most important issue for them, Romano notes. That distinction belongs to inflation, which has ranked first by a wide margin for months. Now, Democrats know this. That's why they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which, of course, had nothing to do with inflation. In fact,
it was a climate change thing, right?
It's a climate change bill. It's many bills. But the interesting thing is that when it was reviewed by a third-party, non-biased organization,
a non-Facebook organization, David,
they said this isn't going to help inflation at all. But Biden and the Democrats, of course, have been railing Republicans because not a single Republican voted for it. Can you believe it?
Dave, you came on this very program, the start of the Biden, I think while he was running for fucking president, and we went over his economic plan, and they said it's going to be terrible for the country.
Yeah, they did say that. Yeah, it's actually the same organization that said that this isn't going to solve inflation.
Yeah, David, not just the organization, but you said it.
Well,
you a guy with a computer, glasses, and a brain was like,
the glasses is really what got me, though.
Like, this is going to fuck everything up. This is unbelievable.
Yet beneath the surface, the new Yahoo News /YouGov poll reveals that crime is exerting a stronger pull on many voters than that number would suggest.
Yeah, I wonder why.
People don't like being robbed, apparently. When separately asked to rate how important each issue is, for instance, a clear majority of Americans describe crime as very important, 59%, and nearly all, 89%, say it's at least somewhat important. Who's 11% saying crime doesn't matter? Only inflation, 72% very important, 92% somewhat important, scores higher. So crime and inflation, two things that Democrats are shit at by design, for the record. Sounds like things are going to get bad, but it goes on.
No, it's going to get bad. I'm not... Go ahead, David. Everything I say will be a conspiracy theorist. There's no way they're just going to let a red wave happen and not steal a couple fucking votes. Are you kidding me?
We have safe, fair elections, right?
No, not everywhere.
Americans give Republicans the edge when it comes to handling crime, with 38% saying they trust GOP more on the issues and just 30% saying the same of Democrats. Likewise, independents prefer Republicans on crime by a massive 42 to 17% margin, Romano says. As a result, crime appears to be doing for Republicans what abortion has been doing for Democrats. No. Motivating the base and serving as a wedge issue in some swing votes. Only depends how much they lie about it.
Wait.
This is where... Yeah.
Wait, what?
What?
They just correlated the rise in crime to
No. Well, what they're saying
they're saying that with the way that it's gravitating the voter base is very similar to
Yes.
Dude, talk about making two things fucking complete polar opposites mashed together well.
They
got to be linked, right, Dave? Because of rape and incest. You know, all that violent crime is really hitting that abortion number.
Did you see I have to bring this up. This wasn't planned, but it just hit me just now, and I couldn't remember. Nick. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this or not. I'm going to try and do this really quickly. Can I find the actual ad? I don't know if this is going to be the whole ad or what. Let me see what we can do here. I'm going to see what we can do, Ryan. Did you see the ad from, I believe it was the one who was fucking the Chinese girl? The spy, as you may refer to her.
She's not a spy, David.
She
She's
literally
familiar with the matter.
Literally was a spy, but yes, she was very familiar with
Till the
garbage.
midterm elections, and Bay Area Congressman Eric Swalwell is making headlines
I don't know
for
if they're
a
going to play the
shocking
ad. I
new
hope they
digital
do.
ad that depicts a dystopian reality if Democrats lose control of the House and the Senate.
Mary Anderson,
Yes?
I have a warrant for your arrest.
Arrest for what?
Penal Code 243 violation. Unlawful termination of a pregnancy.
The ad, called Lock Her Up, portrays a woman being arrested in front of her family for having an abortion. When the husband steps in to stop the arrest, police draw their guns on the couple while their children watch in tears.
Why is this happening?
Man, if they only had something to protect themselves against people that would do them wrong, David.
We're just
Yeah.
enforcing the law here.
Yeah, it's a good thing nobody is proposing women get
have consequences.
arrested for.
The aim of our ad is to
Shut up.
make sure
Shut up, idiot.
Yeah, we're just following orders.
Yeah. It's a good thing that nobody is suggesting women should get arrested for having abortions.
I haven't
Just
heard
for the
that
record.
one time.
Sorry, that was. I just had to show you that if you didn't see that. That is the most ridiculous ad I think I've ever seen.
If that is not propaganda and trying to brainwash, especially young, impressionable people, because I'm sure this played on YouTube and,
Oh, I'm sure all over the place.
it's probably on TikTok. If Democrats...
Oh, it's definitely on TikTok. The Chinese spy probably put it up. Now we get into, the article gets in a little bit into the New York race, which is getting interesting. I still think, I don't care what any polls say or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Lee Zeldin is still going to lose. I'm sorry. It's still a blue state. Sorry, Ryan. Sorry. You live in a blue state. It is what it is.
No,
My state's a
David.
purple state. We
No,
might have
David.
a chance. You are a blue state.
No, David. There's blue cities in a red state.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the blue cities make the whole state red. Or blue. A Quinnipiac poll released this week showed Zeldin within 4 points of Kathy Hochul, which is, I don't know, never happened. The Democratic incumbent who took the power last year after Cuomo resigned. Say why.
Yeah,
Say
what's
why.
He was groping people after he murdered your grandparents and gave you legal marijuana.
No, I think everyone was universally okay with the murdering of the grandparents.
Yeah, there's too many people, right? And all that 1/7 of the world's wealth's got to go back to government spending, right? We can't let it give it to their grandkids and free themselves from debt and escalating inflation. It's also funny to me to think that they reference the 4 points like people who actually read fucking news know what they're talking about. But I think 2 points is margin of error. So
yeah, it depends on the poll, but typically they're like 2 to 3 points or so.
yeah, so we're
I think
talking
on this
about
poll it was like 2.7%.
Yeah, so they're like even 2 points you can make up with one TV ad, basically.
Or 50,000 in Russian spending. The survey showed Zeldin. The survey showed Zeldin at 46% support and Hochul at 50%. Even that result would be the New York GOP's best statewide showing since 2002, when Republican Governor George Pataki, who got a popularity boost from the 9/11 tax, won a third term.
I love they said took power in there too. She took power.
I think
Women never has power.
I think that's more telling though. If Zeldin is supposed to be like a mega Republican, right? If he is that close to a Democrat in a blue state like New York, maybe the rest of the country, if I'm a Democrat, I'm pretty worried about just because of that race. Like, Jesus, if New York is close, we're fucked. That's what I'd be thinking if I was in a swing state. If I was a politician in a swing state and I saw New York, a close race, I'd say, shit, we're fucked.
David, here's all I got to tell you. The people that voted for Joe Biden openly, their family didn't forget. And now every time they go to buy fucking peanut butter and they're sitting there waiting for them at family dinner, it's like, I want you to bitch about how expensive things are so I can rub it in your
Oh, trust me, we do this. Yeah, in our minds. We're like, please say how expensive gas is.
Yeah, please. But you don't. You'll bitch to everybody else because you know.
You fucking know.
You guys know. You know? I got assaulted for 4 years because I didn't even like the guy, but I have to defend him because you guys are so crazy. You know, David, whatever. It's not even matter anymore. We couldn't even be like, yeah, let's attack the guy on this thing because it's like, I like strippers that urinate on blankets and beds that former president slept on. Just none of it made any fucking sense at the beginning.
Brian, part of me wants to go live the next 2 days. And the reason I say that is next week features some of the most important debates of the year on October 24th, which is tomorrow or today when you're watching. A likely GOP presidential candidate will face off against his Democratic opponent, Rep. Charlie Crist, but the biggest fireworks will likely come a day later, Tuesday, when Dr. Mehmet Oz debates Governor John Fetterman in only debates for Pennsylvania's open Senate seat.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a big swing in the I just don't see it. I've heard this the last 2 election cycles. Now, granted, we did see it with the former president. I'm apolitical now, so I forgot his name, but we did see a what they would call the silent majority vote. That was actually like a real thing, sort of speak. It's pretty crazy to say, like, even with all the voter turnout that Republicans get in some of these states that are just obviously so entrenched with blue ideology, it's pretty incredible. And I could even say the same thing the other side with some of these red states that have blue polling numbers. But it always seems to me that it's kind of like how Obama did it, right? He was just like some political supporter. Oh, he was a grassroots organizer. And then he magically makes his way to president somehow, all because of a couple people in selective positions.
No, because he was good at grassroots.
Yeah, super good. That's why nobody knew about him until he came out of nowhere. But it's just...
So you're saying you don't expect a swing?
Why would I expect a swing when I watched Donald Trump lose because of a bullshit mathematical curve when I went to sleep? I stay up till 1 and 2 in the morning on election nights, David.
Yeah.
I don't just like go to
but
bed.
That's not late enough. You need to stay up longer than that. You missed all the action, really.
Yeah, we can have the Powerball. What?
But that's one. You just got to count. 4 tickets.
I'd say it's not important, but here I am, like, openly questioning the integrity of the American election system when I stand here and defend America every week. So I don't know. I don't know I have a hard time believing polls. I have a hard time believing when they openly push propaganda on every damn channel that I could possibly turn on, and then think that polling is going to be indicative of the truth when we all know that everything is upside fucking down. You don't need a poll to tell you that. And to think that people are going to go and vote for the exact same thing that gave you what you have, I wouldn't be so sure. And you know what? I would question the average intelligence of human beings if we do vote Democrat, because nothing changed but one guy and his and the ideology that goes with those different people, and it seems like everything went backwards.
So
when Corona is smaller than it was before, the Donald Trump presidency dealt with most of the Corona problems, handed out all the Corona money, handed out all the Corona vaccines, or at least Operation War. Like, everything was mostly done. It was at least 60% done for him. It was an easy layup, unless you fucked that up too, which you probably did, because you were saying the former guy was fucking everything up. So what do I know? But you're not just going to get a sweet pass on this, David. They're not doing it.
All right. So before I move on to the Raiders thing, I'm a little confused. I want to have your prediction. Do you or do you not suspect that there's a, quote, red wave coming? Do you think there is, but it won't count because of, let's call it voting?
Here's what I'll say.
Voting oopsies.
I trust the person voting, the person writing the vote, the person counting the vote, the person asking the person. I trust all of that. I trust the people with that politicians. I trust all of that. The thing I don't trust is the little Imperial probe droid that I have to slide a fucking sheet of paper into. When the assholes right there could just count it.
So you're saying there would be in normal circumstances, but due to some voting tally errors, there won't be.
AI computers from the future. Yes, the computer machines that are masquerading as Terminator robots are stealing my election in real time, and the Matrix is fighting back, David. They know that Republican ideology is the way to a prosperous future.
All right. Well, I like this because we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out in a few weeks who's correct here. Maybe I'm naive still. I could be naive, even with all the shit I've seen in the past. I do suspect massive red wave.
Yeah, maybe they'll give us this one.
We'll
maybe
see.
They'll give us this one and throw us a bone, David.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. It could get interesting.
Imagine a supermajority of Biden for his last 2 years of presidency, like Barack Obama
he was out. He was out talking about on like his social medias and stuff. Obviously, he wasn't saying it, but somebody was saying it. That if you just make sure these Democrats still get elected, we're gonna codify Roe v. Wade. It's like, all right, well, why not do it now then? Like, what's stopping you now, Biden? You have everybody you need in House and Senate. Put it in through.
Yeah, that's really the question that journalism should be asking is like, how do you codify it? And then be like, well, we'll pass the constitutional amendment. Be like, did you try? And they'll go,
well, they're not even saying that because that's what you would actually have to do, right? Because you would have to make it an actual right.
That's if you understand federalism, David.
Otherwise, you're violating, the Constitution, the 9th and 10th Amendment, by saying the federal government puts into law a right for. That's not how it works. That's not how rights work. You don't put it through as a law. You have to literally amend the Constitution as a right. Totally different process.
Sounds the same, David.
But don't worry. If Democrats win in the midterms, he's going to cure cancer, and they're going to codify Roe v. Wade. So it seems like Democrats have a lot to lose if they don't vote for him.
I'll trust a guy that can't drive a bike, though.
Can you imagine what an asshole you'd have to be? Like, when he says things like, we'll cure cancer if you vote for me, it's like, well, so wait, are you saying that you can do it now, but you need them to vote for you first? That's kind of like a dick move. Like, if they don't vote for you, you're not going to cure cancer? It's kind of an asshole thing to do.
It sounds like the narcissist that the last president off to be.
Moving on from election news. We can do some football news. The Raiders, Ryan.
Did the Chiefs win today or no?
The Chiefs won by a fuck pile. It was like 44-20 something.
Did the Jets lose?
The Jets won.
Son of a bitch.
They lost their starting running back.
44-20.
I think he's got maybe a torn ACL, so it looks like their star rookie running back might be out.
16-9, man. Let's ride, Broncos.
I gotta tell you, the Broncos, they're not any better or worse with Russell Wilson apparently. About 9 points is their ceiling.
Didn't he get paid more than Josh Allen?
I don't know if it's more, but I think he's got more guaranteed, but the contract might not be as much. It's a fuck pile of money. It's like $250 million or something. So
Josh Allen scored every touchdown for the Bills nearly. This guy can't even score
with that Broncos
one
going forward. Good luck.
Let's ride.
Contract. Let's ride.
Hey, how do you fuck the next 15 years of a franchise? Pay a guy that's not worth any money.
That's one way. This is the other. Raiders hiring director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's not her. That's like the team president or something.
Oh, I was gonna say she's super hot. I hope she doesn't have a penis.
Yeah, no, she already has a job, and she might have a penis. I haven't checked.
Beauty's getting hard to judge nowadays.
Equity, inclusion, and racial. Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Isn't Raiders in Las Vegas?
They're in Vegas now, yeah. So
it's like the least diverse place on earth.
What are you talking about? Like half the people there are trannies. It's very diverse.
That's not diverse, David. If most of them congregate in one area, it's called a saturation. Sure. It's the opposite of diverse. It's a saturation of
diverse if you look at it from afar.
Yeah, Dave.
Nevada is diverse because of Vegas because there's a lot of trannies on the strip.
David, Vegas.
I don't think you're supposed to say trannies. I'm sorry. There's a lot of people who identify as other things, whatever they're called now.
Well, David, I identify as a founding father.
I feel so honored to have you on, honestly. I didn't know.
4 scores and 80 horrors ago.
I must say, I didn't know you were Franklin. How's the syphilis, Ben?
It is from time and time again.
The NFL is, of course, going woke, and it's going woke from within organizations as well. I don't see this doing anything, but, nothing like a bullshit hire to really turn the franchise around. They did win today. It's probably because of that person that they're interviewing.
Imagine hiring a person for a position that isn't even needed, but we make a whole branch in a like a whole arm of an organization, have this person be able to tell
needed.
One person's able to tell everybody else on the team if that was appropriate or not.
Yeah. Is that going to be their role? Are they going to be like, well, I don't know if
What else are they going to do,
you
David?
you shouldn't sign that player. He's not diverse enough. I'm sorry, I shouldn't sign another fast black guy. Like, what do you want? I'm sorry, I didn't get a Latinx kicker. Should I hire Rodrigo Blankenship?
There will never be another white quarterback in the history of the NFL.
What does that even mean? Like, what, we don't have enough Asians in the NFL? Like, what are we really worried about?
Yeah, probably not. They're not tall enough to play in the NFL.
Sports are almost entirely based on merit because, you want to build winning franchises. So what do? You get players who are good at doing the things they're supposed to do.
David, you are trying to prop up a patriarchy that's only goal is suppression.
I need a receiver who runs good routes and has good hands. Whether
That's
it's Cooper
suppression.
Kupp or Stephon Diggs, I don't give a shit if he's white or black. I just need the guy who's good.
That's suppression, David, and it's based on slavery because they measure them the same way they would measure slaves.
But it's literally merit.
It's not merit, David. It's the
entirely
same
merit.
thing as slavery.
And if you're really good at it, I'll pay you more, even if you're black. Isn't that great? That's the opposite of racism.
You can actually be some of the richest black guys ever.
Other than Kanye.
Richest black man in the history of America. Kanye West.
That's just
amazing. It's fucking amazing. It's amazing. That guy came from nothing.
Yes. And speaking of people who came from nothing, Ryan.
I gave that one to you, David.
Let's talk some Cobra Tate newsletter. It's interesting. This was the first one. You can go to cobratate.com. Obviously, we're not paid by Tate to say this. You can go to cobratate.com. Sign up for the newsletter. It's free. He sends I think he sends you one thing weekly, and they're just little stories about his life. Obviously, he tells it better because he has an accent, and he speaks very quickly. I don't know how he speaks so fucking fast, to be honest with you. He's just got a lot on his mind, and he's good at laying it out.
He's a grandmaster chess player, David.
But the premise of this one is basically, if you want to be successful, get pissed, I think was the thing it basically says. And it starts like this. When I was 22, I had no money at all. I had a BMW 5 Series, an $11,000 car, which most people would be happy with a 5 Series, which is the point of this whole thing. It's like the average person is perfectly fine with a 5 Series BMW. They'd be like, yeah, that's great. I love a 5 Series. A rented apartment. Most people don't give a shit if they have an apartment. They're like, great, apartment. I have an apartment. I have a 5 Series. I'm doing all right. That's not good enough for him. Here's the story. I was training, but not yet a world champion, and I worked in advertising sales. He was training to be a boxer. For people who don't know him, he's a kickboxer.
4-time international kickboxer.
And he was apparently at 22. He was selling TV ads. I would drive up and down the country selling TV advertising to companies who didn't need it or want it. Had my usual pitch. How do you advertise now? Magazines. Why not TV? Too expensive. Well, actually, per person reach, TV is cheaper, blah, 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 blah. I was very good and smashed records. This made me maybe $4,000 to $6,000 a month. One Sunday afternoon, I was enjoying a dinner at a chicken spot when I watched in real time as a van reversed into my car. I literally sat holding a piece of chicken and watched is all caps, to your point, right, about his caps. Bam! Fuck the entire front of the car up. I went outside and it was some African dude straight off the boat from Ghana who gave me a half sorry, gave me his details and said he was late for work. Off he went, and I was left with a fucked car until the insurance claim came through. This is his life, though. This is the stories. The problem is that I had a very big meeting the next morning, the largest deal for advertising to date, and it was about a 4-hour drive away. When the annoyance died down, the plan was simple. I will drive to the meeting and park far away so the client doesn't see me turn up in a fucked up car and close the deal, make the money, and wait for the insurance to fix it. So now it's Monday morning. I'm driving to this meeting. Nearly there, 3 hours and 45 minutes in. I'm only a few miles from the destination. I'm thinking where I can park so there's zero chance of getting spotted by accident. The last thing I need is some junior on the coffee run seeing me. Nobody's buying $150K of TV ads from a guy with no headlights.
It's true.
As I'm thinking about this, I hear music, Bon Jovi next to me, and I will love you, baby, all caps. I look to the side and I see a white Aston Martin with a Swedish number plate. There's a hot blonde in the passenger seat. I sat there and stared for maybe 10 seconds and thought, here I am, broken car, bullshit situation on a Monday morning, and this guy is driven to England from fucking Sweden, has a hot chick, they're laughing with the roof down, blasting love songs. Where did my life go wrong? I'm a successful salesman, the best in the company. Why do I not get to live like that guy? That guy, the man, is stuck with me. I went to the meeting. The guy owned the company, was very old, wasn't open to new ideas, and wouldn't buy the TV ads. I didn't get the deal. After weeks afterward, even when my car was repaired, I'd be sitting at work in traffic and thinking, who the fuck was that guy? How did he get there? Every time I had bullshit problems in my life, I'd think, why am I not in a foreign country in an expensive car and a super hot chick next to me? That's the life. This was 9 years ago. 9 years from that moment till now. The exact look I gave that guy, and he saw me looking. That exact look is the look I get now when people see me here in Romania with my English Lamborghini hot girl Monday morning. They look at me the same way. This guy is driven to Romania from fucking England. He has a hot chick. They're laughing with the roof down, blasting gangster rap. It's the circle of life. I've become the man I once envied. The only reason I got there is when I saw this man, and I allowed it to bother me to the point of absolute motivation. Most people see success and it doesn't bother them, but it should bother you. The rich say things like money won't make you happy to stop the uprising of the poor. It's bullshit. Money will certainly make you happier. You won't be less happy with more money. That's a fucking fact. If you're not annoyed when you see things like a man in the Aston or me in the Lambo, you're not wired for success. Get angry, do something about it.
Amen.
That is the fucking mindset, though. That's the mindset you need.
That's a good thing about how they use it to keep the poor down, that money doesn't buy you happiness. Because it's not true, right? Like, even though
of course not.
I do subscribe to it, but like I guess it's like about fulfillment, really. At least for me personally, I mean, you'll never be happy. Happiness is a feeling. And this is actually stuff Tate talks about, right? Like
and he's expanded on that before. He's like, that's not to say that a rich person can't be sad, but it's all about your mindset. But a sad person will certainly be more happy with more money.
Well, he said it too. Like, you experience time different when you're rich. You know, like in a 40-hour work week,
he was talking about the jets.
Yeah, he could just get on a jet. Like, he can travel 6 countries in 7 hours on his own jet. You'd still be in the LA waiting for. Like, how much more life do you get to live? Because you're like, you don't have to wait on anything. Like, and this is the thing. Like, but back to the whole thing. Money can't buy you happiness, or can buy you happiness, but it won't make you fulfilled.
Correct. You have to still kind of fulfill yourself.
And this is where I think like you got to view your life like there's no ceiling on shit. And I just listened to a video about Andrew Huberman, who is I believe he's a evolutionary, but he's definitely a biologist of some kind.
I was going to say that name sounds familiar. I don't know what.
Yeah, he's been on Rogan. He made the rounds on all the podcasts, Jocko, Chris Williamson on Modern Wisdom. And he talked about how you can basically rig your dopamine receptors for unlimited reward, and dopamine is actually released in the pursuit of something. It's not the thing released after you get it. Like, we used to always think dopamine was the reward, but dopamine is actually produced as you push towards the thing you want.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
It makes the chase worth chasing.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought it was the opposite too. I thought it was like you did the thing and then your brain says, "Ooh, yeah, dopamines," and then you're happy about it.
Yeah, and you get the after you complete it, you get dopamine. You're like, and that tells your body it was a good thing. But no, and he describes it. If I might like jumble this, but he said they took like rats that were dopamine deprived or overloaded or whatever, and they would still do tasks, that they would do if they would be happy. Like, these tasks normally only happy mice do, but they would still do those tasks. And then they realized that like what we're actually talking about is the actual journey. And we have evolved around this way because we had, like, if the journey is not worth the destination, humans would naturally not want to progress further. It's like in order for you to venture into the unknown, you have to have the drive to travel there, right? which is why you need the dopamine before you get there. Because if you only got dopamine when you got there, you would never travel there because there'd be nothing driving you towards a destination you're trying to reach.
Interesting.
Yes, it's very interesting. But the point is about that fulfillment thing, right? It's about this thing that, and that's what like all these rich people, this is the same shit my dad tells me, well, those Fortune 500 guys, they go home, the house is empty, they got no memory. And a lot of that could be true. They got drug addicts for wives, and
sure,
a lot of that could be true. But rich people live longer than middle class and poor people for a reason. So, I don't know, Dave. That's awesome. I subscribe to Tate's newsletter. I'm just terrible with emails, but I followed him enough to see like the way he operates. But he's 100% right. I've never been jealous of success once I got on my own and really started
I never was either.
Trying to carve out my own little thing. I did envy the rich. I still kind of do, but I think that's what we do when you come from where we come from. Not it's like envious of like, oh, but it's like, God damn it, what do I got to do?
Mm-hmm.
Like. What do I gotta do, man? Well, and maybe you are just born with that, right? Like that drive, because being content in an apartment, I'm in an apartment, and I could say I live the best I've ever lived in my life and just ride off into the sunset on this and just keep doing this for 50 more years. But there'd be something in me that would know that I sold myself short because I'm capable of much more.
Right. Well,
so
let's see where we go. Let's see where we go, Ryan.
Yeah,
I think we got. Maybe if you want more Tate newsletter, let me know. Put it down in the comments if you want to see more of it. We can read next week's. I think it's every week. So, you were talking about fulfillment, Ryan. Before we get on, this is where things were heavy, and we're going to try to make them light. Ironically, through people who are heavy.
How the fuck are the Raiders going to hire a diversity coach and all this shit, but the guy that owns the Commanders has dirt to sink the entire NFL?
No,
tell me that guy's not going to get Me Too'd next.
No, it's
God damn it. I see the writing.
There was a Colts. The Colts ownership already came out and said that guy needs to step down. But the funny thing is, the Colts owner he's probably like the top dog of people who have fucking dirt.
Yeah, Robert Kraft got caught up in a sting operation at a rub and tug place.
It was literally the same thing Deshaun Watson did.
Yeah, literally the same thing. Literally caught up in a sting operation and everything. Nothing.
It's fine. So this, Ryan,
but money can't buy happiness, David. Definitely buys good publicity.
Ryan, I do want to entertain you though, and of course everybody out there. Let's get a little lighter. This is I present to you, Ryan, through a 3-part series. We have 3 clips here of fat people traveling.
Oh lordy!
Things that plus-size travelers hate. When the tray table can't come down, worrying about asking for a seatbelt extender.
They make those?
Having little to no room to move. Narrow aisles and bulkhead seats. Tiny airplane bathrooms. Worrying you're going to break the toilet. Getting pat down because you're fat. Tiny airport chairs with armrests.
If you go through a TikTok compilation on why airports suck because you're fat, you obviously care more about what other people think about you than anything else. Because in all reality, you should have put the spoon down a long time ago. And you know this. You just want to get social shame from. You want to get social. No, you're good. You're great, girl. Just keep, those damn airports. Because God forbid your fat ass sit on a bus for 37 hours instead of flying for 2. I know it's fucking terrible that the bathroom's not large enough to accommodate a 375-pound person, because then we'd have to cut out seating, which would just make my fucking tickets more expensive because we have less people per. Imagine if they were all plus-size seating, David. One ticket would be thousands more dollars because they fly less people physically. God forbid. Instead of shoving 10 people in there, we got to shove 5 in there because, they're all plus size, so the tickets are twice as expensive. This is basic economics here.
Yeah, well, you're thinking it from an economic.
It's literally called economy flight. Isn't it called econo flight? Like economic.
You will never be the next Raiders head of inclusion if you have these kinds of thoughts. I didn't know the thing about getting pat down more. I highly doubt.
Yeah, that guy does not want to touch you.
He does not want to pat you down. I promise you.
He probably questions how much he makes an hour to stop patting.
You may think
plus size.
What more could possibly be said about me being overweight and trying to travel? But it turns out much more.
People ask me if I purchase to seats when flying. They say it's not fair to the person who has to sit next to me if I don't. When I tell them I do, they say I'm selfish for taking a seat from another.
No, they don't.
The fact of the matter is that people can't stand to see fat people happy. So why should we care what they think?
First of
Ask
all,
what your doctor thinks, and then make a TikTok of him going through all of this: your high cholesterol, your high blood pressure, your 1040C3 XWYZ chromosome count, your testosterone rates are fucked up, your estrogen's through the roof. You look like a man from the back and the front. Like, what are we going to talk about here?
But
woman does not obviously care about her health at all. I know it's hard to lose weight. I just happen to be
cares. She had the oxygen thing in, so obviously she cares about getting enough oxygen. That's good.
She's the reason. I'm gonna just sound cruel. My mama said if I got nothing nice to say, but still, she's the reason why it says caution hot on a cup of coffee.
There was somehow more to this story.
Things plus size travelers hate part 2.
Of course.
Towels that don't fit.
Because the towel doesn't fit.
People staring all the time. Bunk beds. Souvenir shops that don't have your size. Chib rub.
What?
Chairs with armrests.
Chairs with armrests.
Getting stuck with 2 twin mattresses instead of a king.
Do we really think there was fat cavemen?
No, of course
serious question.
Of course not. You know how much work would have been involved in being a fat caveman? You know how hard it would have been? You'd have had to been, first of all, so good at hunting. Like, think of how good of at hunting you would have had to been, because then you'd have to have all that excess food to eat. But then if you had to hunt that much, you'd be running around like a madman. You'd be losing weight because you'd be running around.
Why doesn't she just identify as thin and stop worrying about what people say?
That's a good point. Yeah, well, that's a good point, Ryan. If she's worried about narrow aisles and small seats and small bathrooms, she could just identify as thin and her problems would go away.
Yeah, the world will shape around her. The airplane will become bigger. You know, the seats would be a lot bigger if she was a lot smaller.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Well, that's what we have for fat people traveling. I thought it'd be...
Look, for all my chubby followers out there, I don't hate you. I just want you to drink and eat protein, stay off carbohydrates, and move. And you'll be fine. It's not easy. It's going to suck. You probably have to fast and stop.
I don't know about the carbs thing. I'm not entirely sold on that. Have you ever been to Italy? People in Italy almost exclusively live off carbs, and they are not fat people.
The breads we have here are different than the breads they have there, dude.
Well, some of the breads are reclassified by Subway.
Yeah, they have non-GMO wheat over in Europe. They're not allowed to sell the bread that we eat and the pastas we eat here in the States to our people. They are not allowed to sell over in Europe. Not that I'm saying the government needs to be involved that much, but...
That sounds like a conspiracy, Ryan.
Yeah, do you remember the whole GMO fight that a long time ago? I was like, yeah, and now everybody's like, yeah, there's just poison and everything.
Yeah. Oh, I remember because I bought donuts one time and tried to hand them out, but I had, for Ryan specifically, I had to put a note that said non-GMO on top of the box of donuts.
Yeah, I can't even afford to eat non-genetically modified. I'm just sitting there bitching about eating genetically modified food. Like, this shit's killing me, and everybody's like, here I am, microplastics and everything. We got people flipping their penises inside out and saying they're women.
Well, that's fine.
They're non-correlated. Causation does not mean correlation, David. Yeah, yay on Drink Champs was tremendous. I'm glad I got to see something that was banned from the internet again. This is literally why I watched it. I seen it pop up in my food, and I was like, I'll get to it. And then I was like, no, I have to watch it because it might not be there. And then...
and then it wasn't there. Turns out.
I seen an NPR article that was
Oh, that's
groveling at China, brother.
Of course.
They said something about that the Communist Party in its third term has the most support it's ever had. And all I thought about was like, do you really think total totalitarian like those type of regimes, do you think they're going to become less popular over time? They're in power or more?
I think it's interesting that they say the word support as if it's not forced upon its citizens.
Well, it's the People's Republic, David, which is
That's
exactly
true.
what communism means.
That's true. But the president was democratically elected.
With a stolen election. Time article. I didn't read it because you have to subscribe to Time, but I'm just this is just to put it out there, people, because once again, they will censor our information, my information, David's information, and your information. So we have to talk about it while we see it, and I screenshot thousands of things a year just so I have my own little personal archive database that may or may not be there if they upload it to the cloud and swipe all my shit. The point is like we have to build our own access and we have to build our own history tab on these people, which is why we really do this part of the show. But we already covered Alex Jones, $1 to $3 trillion in damages and everything, which is obviously crazy. Yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped one. The Time said the U.S. is heading towards a second civil war. Time.
Well, you said that.
No, it was Time magazine.
Yeah, no, but you have said that. You said specifically that they want a civil war. These people want a civil war, I think is what I heard.
Yeah, these people do want a civil war. And the only way that they can really prep it for it is to get everything set up now. So when there is a civil war, it doesn't seem so shocking. Because that's really what it is. Just like I'm seeing articles this week that are talking about a recession could be near. How to
here,
just in case.
Yeah, but it's here.
No,
but it is. Remember when we said it was here, and then they said it wasn't? But we're like, oh yeah, but remember this metric that you always used? And they said, yeah, but it changed.
Yeah, but now economists are agreeing that it's more than likely that we're heading towards a recession. And here's the things you do to avoid recession. And they put these in the headlines in the news article so that you're like, oh my God, we're heading towards a recession, even though we're already in a fucking recession. So that when we're actually in the recession, everything that was planned for the recession talking points is already there. Like, oh, well, I seen a thing about Shannon Yelich. I forget how to say her name.
Janet Yellen?
But yeah, thank you. But she's like the head of the Fed and stuff. And they were saying that she made a mistake. Now, granted, nobody's perfect. But the people that run the banks don't make a fucking mistake.
Mistake, or she did it on purpose?
They don't. They don't.
She sounded pretty confident in her mistake every time she was interviewed.
Yeah, I mean, David, isn't it a mistake what caused the stock market to fall out and caused the Great Depression to begin with was a mistake because they allowed...
Yeah, but I'm not so sure they didn't see that coming either.
I think they
no one thought it was a bad idea. Not one person.
I think they let it happen so they could corner the financial district, because if you can control the printing of a country's money, you can control the country. Dave and I are not fucking wizards, but we told you, anybody with half a brain that's older, that was born before 1990, knows we're in a goddamn recession. This isn't hard. I don't know why you have to lie to me. I know why you have to lie to me, because the second civil war is coming. Instead of me being mad at my politicians that sold me out, I'll be mad at my neighbor for wearing a stupid ass fucking hat. So you got what you want. People I know won't keep going to work. Steve Bannon is supposed to be serving 6 months in jail, apparently. I think it's linked to the December 6th violent protest at the Capitol. I'm assuming... Yeah, Jan 6th. What did I say? September 6th? Jesus.
I don't know what you said.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My bad, people. It's
That's
late.
Disinformation. Shut it down.
But yeah, they're trying to get Trump to subpoena to talk. I don't think that's going to happen. It would look terrible. I know why they're bringing it up now. The midterms are on the way. This isn't hard, but yeah, this is a stage show right now. We're really living it with the January 6th stuff. My last thing before Decembertainment this week, Jordan Peterson was on Piers Morgan, and I had one of his clips come up, and Piers Morgan was trying to paint the picture that Vladimir Putin was this insane tyrant that was just hell-bent on nuclear war and was willing to smash the button and destroy everything just to prove a point because he's a psychopath.
Yeah, but Piers Morgan's an idiot.
He's also not a psychologist, and like the number one psychologist in the fucking world right now on the internet. And he's not. So what's crazy about me when people question Jordan Peterson? He's not just a commentator. Like the guy
everyone makes it seem like he's an Instagram model.
The guy lived his whole life the way he sells to live his life. He's like a literal model of his own ethics.
But that's exactly what people make it sound like. You know how like Instagram models always act like they're actual models, but they're not. People think that like with Jordan Peterson, but it's like, no, he's an actual he's an actual genius. He's actually what he says he is. And he just happens to also do it on social media.
And that's why, like, when I follow that guy, I triple down on his shit, and I'll defend it forever. Not that I have a confirmation bias, but because the guy has, like, if somebody is just be like, well, this is my opinion, be like, well, where'd you get that from? He's like, oh, it's my opinion. Well, Jordan Peterson doesn't have opinion. He has, like, actual, like, he's a professor. Like, it's crazy. And then when you start hearing about the guy and his life and his 14 hours a day working for 30 fucking, like, what do we, like, people just act so coy with this guy. It's really insulting for a country that's supposed to be based on merit, right? But we know it's not. It's just based on your feelings now. But it used to be based on something. Like your successes, people would shut up because you were successful. But Jordan Peterson was on Piers Morgan trying to paint Vladimir Putin, right? Piers Morgan was setting up this narrative. And this is obviously because this is the same narrative that we're seeing painted all across all various types of media. And Jordan Peterson said, he's not like Stalin and Hitler, like you guys make him out to seem. And he's like, I would actually argue that we have more of Stalin and Hitler. The average person is more like Stalin and Hitler than you would think. And it kind of like puzzled Piers Morgan and stuff. And Jordan Peterson in this clip that I seen got not lost, but it's so crazy because you could just like say that statement, right? And like gloss over it because there's something more important to be said. But like, those two people are like the most important people ever. You know, it's not like something you could skip over, but you have to because there's more of an important point needing to be made. But you almost have to go back to clarify, right? And he gets lost up in total totalitarianism. And he leads it to, he's like, what do you think cancel culture is? He's like, total totalitarianism would mean that everybody would lie to everybody all the time. That's the only way it's a top-down approach at total totalitarianism. Like the president would have to lie to the vice president, would have to lie to Congress, who would have to lie to you, who would lie to the statesman, who like husbands would be lying to their wives, brothers to their sisters, their bosses to their, it would have to be every layer to be true totalitarianism. And if that's what Hitler and Stalin were, which they were, right? That means people had to agree and people had to believe something along the line of that ideology to make them lie to everybody, spy on their neighbors, and get them dragged off the camps. And that's not fucking hyperbole, YouTube. That's literal history. So, it's just beautiful. Jordan Peterson is a master articulator, and he said the same thing I did. And this is granted, I got some of this shit from this guy himself. Vladimir Putin is not crazy. He's a fucking spy and one of the best spies ever. And there's areas of Ukraine right now that are going to sanction off and become parts of Russia. And then if Ukraine or the West goes in there, you're now having war with Russia. And as George Peterson was saying, these are just two bad decisions. This is how the Second World War was fought in its entirety. It was just two bad decisions. And instead of kicking the can down the road, you had to make sacrifices in the present.
Yeah. And not to get too far into this, Putin debate, but I think people want you to believe that Putin is just this insane, crazy madman who's on his last leg dying from cancer, who's going to hit the nuke at any moment. But they want you to seem like he's just a mentally unstable whatever, because they want to, I think, absolve themselves of any responsibility they played in what's going on right now. And if they just say he's a crazy madman, nothing could have been done about it, then it's not our fault. He's crazy. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, this is almost like me and you burn down a house, and I give you the gas and the matches when somebody shows up, and then you blow me in when we drag you down to the police station. You still blow me in, and I mean, because that's obviously what it is, David. I don't think they're that smart, though. I think that they just think like I do. I don't think everybody in the West is just ignorant to this. I just don't think that they think about it like this. They're not thinking like it's a spy movie. Like, I don't think.
But it is.
It's beyond that. You're fighting the best spy ever.
He's a literal spy.
Like, the best spy ever. You know, I heard a story how he got into power, and everybody that he was running against died in a fucking apartment building that blew up. The day of the election or something. Yeah, I'm sure. Just like that bridge in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh bridge that just collapsed on infrastructure speech day.
Yeah, but Peterson went on, obviously, I'll just get to this and then we'll move on. But he said, you don't have power over people that you can't say no to. And he was referencing Russia and how they have all of the natural gas and everything needed to supply Europe with power and the West with power, and as well as China. You can't say no to these people, so why do you think they're going to listen to you? You think you have control? Look at me. I'm the global leader now. Das Vidania, comrades. Like, Das Vidania. I don't like, I'm not here to get into this, but Jordan Peterson, Pierce Morgan, look it up. It was great. My December 10th this week, something else great, was a Joe Rogan episode.
Was it Tulsi Gabbard?
No, that would be political, David.
It was excellent, though, just for anyone who's interested.
Was it? Maybe I'll give it a listen this week.
Tremendous, yeah. I love it.
Will it get removed? Because that will push me.
Probably, yeah. Good chance.
What was the most tremendous thing about the Tulsi Gabbard interview?
Well, if you're watching it, it's looking at her. If you listen to it, if it's because you're listening to it, just her talking about leaving the Democratic Party, I guess, which everyone knew. Like, let's be honest, anyone on the right knew that she didn't leave them. They left her a long time ago. I don't know why she's just now announcing it, because
she's a dino.
Politics anyway, so who cares? But also, it's not like the Democratic Party is. I mean, for the last decade, they've been 2 decades. I mean, think 2 decades ago. Like, think of a Democrat, and then think of like one now. They're like polar opposite.
Yeah, David, I actually sent you this in a thing that it said something. I don't know if it was liberal or progressive in the headline, but it said like progressives are making or liberals are making steps in. It was dealing with schooling or something, and then it said liberals, right? But it was like basically linking liberals and progressives as the same thing, which they're not by definition, right?
Right, and they formed into one thing. Yeah,
it's like you're either this or something else, and you can't be this something else. Yeah, I wonder why there's a big red wave coming.
Well, you're a communist or you're a MAGA Republican. It's one of
David, I'm sure Tulsi Gabbard has internal like polling and politics and gerrymandering and all these other things that she knows that like the districting and everything that's going on is not going to be beneficiary for her. I've also heard things that during the pandemic when she voted for people to stay inside, she was out on the beach surfing. So. Anyways, Joe Rogan, JRE. I don't know what episode it is. Dave, you know who Dave Rubin? You know who Rick Rubin is?
Is he a director?
He's a music producer.
Okay.
He is like the music producer for hip hop. Beastie Boys, worked with Dre and NWA. Like,
right. Okay.
He worked on Slipknot albums, Chili Pepper.
I don't know.
Albums.
I was thinking maybe I was thinking like a music video.
He's worked with Kendrick. If you pull up a picture of him, he looks like a bald dude with just a big gray beard. Is crazy. Like a ZZ Top member. He worked with System of a Down. Dude, he's wrote a book about how to create stuff and like what he's learned. And okay, this guy has spent his entire from his 20s, even earlier, but just like following the things he loved and creating things he loved creating. And he found music, right? And he found hip hop when it was still like an underground niche thing and put on all these big artists and help like cultivate a lot of things in hip hop in particular that we just take for granted. Mm-hmm. Right? Like he was all about like even before hip hop was hip hop, right? And there was something so alluring about listening to him because he's super like calm and relaxing, and he like just always talked about like when he would talk about recording with people that it was about making a safe space. And it's not like the safe space you think right. About like politics, but that judgment free, that art isn't perfect and it's going to feel awkward and weird, right? And like the thing that makes art great and what makes you a good artist is when you can replicate not the feeling, but that state of mind you're in when you do the artwork, right? And that's where I think the safe space comes into it. But hearing him just talk about like the steps of creation, the thing that blew me away, he said he's like fucking 60, David. After all these people, Eminem, Dr. Dre, like literally every fucking person, he said he's like, I don't know anything about music. I still don't know anything about music. He's helped make some of the great, like literally the greatest songs and albums ever in human history. I don't know anything about music. I don't really know anything about anything. I don't know anything about music, he said. I still don't really know anything. But he knows what it takes to create. And dude, if that's not the most inspiring thing I've ever fucking heard. You know, because here I am thinking like this about this, and this is an art form. David, as always, thank you for the safe space that you allow us to have and come here with an itinerary and your work that you do behind the scenes, and just like, you know, being consistent, just all the stuff we talk, you know, Dave, we talk. But if that wasn't the most inspiring shit ever, that I have unvested things that I want to do creatively, and then here's a guy, one of them is music, right? So some of it is music that I'd like to do. I'm just like nervous or scared or whatever insecurity I have about it. Not that I'm insecure with myself, but like when you can express things so deep in certain ways, it's not easy to portray that and just share that. Like, that's not like, normally those aren't things you share with people. That's what makes it so powerful, right? Because it can move so many people because it's universal. And a lot of times when you cut yourself open that deep, like some of these artists, it's painful for them, but it's their only way they can express themselves. And I feel like that myself. And it's just like, if that wasn't the most fucking inspiring thing I ever heard about creation, you know, and I'm not expecting everybody to go listen to a 3-hour podcast, but it's in there, man. And I'm sure there's a clip on there. He has a clip about working with Eminem on YouTube, about working with Eminem and Jay-Z. And that's actually the clip that I saw on YouTube that made me go watch most of the full podcast. So it was just beautiful. Rick Rubin on JRE is incredible. Yeah, man. And I also realized the skill that Rogan has. Like, he just really lets people go and be themselves. And, you know, for as controlled as I think Rogan is with the Spotify thing, you know, I do know he has his own thing. But just for him to have his own style was pretty cool to notice as well, objectively, as a, you know, podcasters ourselves, Dave. So,
yeah.
I guess we can leave it there. Dave Ryan, December 1773. Thank you guys if you made it to the end. I always appreciate you guys the most. David, as always, thank you for your time. You can follow us, comment on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. Most importantly, Rumble, free speech alternative to YouTube and Facebook. Yeah, Dave will be there Monday, live 7 Eastern. I will be there as well, commenting. Hope to see you guys there. Thanks for all the support as always, and until next week, go Bills.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ryan.
Later, bro.